will get cranking. So thank you for joining, everybody. Tonight, we wanted to cover actually two distinct different things. We wanted to approach the organization and planning side, maximizing our time in the field. And then we also wanted to bring up specifically using the preservation of the 2017 tax cuts, the Trump era tax cuts, a lot of the times with our renewal and rejoin members. So we're going to make our focus tonight more on the balanced production side. If you're newer to the work, that's the renewal side of our business. We talk about things because it all comes into play: renewals, rejoins, referrals, cold calling, all that kind of stuff. But when we have John Lowry and Kirk joking about wearing John's ring, you know, when you have the award of awards that we all wear out in the field named after you, you must be doing something right after 5 minutes. I think Lowry's kind of figured this business out. He's been doing it for a few years. How many years, John?
Well, I'm in my 27th with Write Your Congressman, but I had 5 with NFIB before that. So
yeah, 30-year track record here, you know. So he knows what he's doing. But it seems like one skill set that is frankly underdeveloped by a lot of people is the organization and planning side of it. And here's what's crazy. You can do a not so good interview, but if you're in front of people, they're joining. Can I get some amens from the gallery? I'm talking about new business, renewal, rejoins. All you do is get in front of them. You almost can't screw this stuff up right now. It is that good. People are peeved and ready to engage. So, John, let's start with the big picture of the organization and planning, just of the quarter, all the way down to the week and then to the day. When you start a new renewal cycle, what's your mindset like? What are some of the key first things that you're doing?
Well, I'm going to go through all the renewals and get them organized by groups so that I know ahead of time exactly how I'm going to process them for the entire quarter. And I have a real advantage because I pretty much know these members, but it's always important for me to go back, and you don't have the renewal cards anymore, but you can work off that the new
printed inventory,
new inventory list, and can work off that. I'm going to organize them by groups. And so when I go to process them, I'm going to do group by group by group, because they're all a little bit removed from each other. But if I know ahead of time, I have this planned out, not only with the renewals, but rejoins. And well, I'm not doing much new business these days. I don't, at my age, I really don't want a lot of new business. But if you have it organized ahead of time, you're way ahead of the game. Now, when I'm going through and doing that, the one thing I'm going to make notes on is what time in each group I can, when I've interviewed these people in the past and when I am likely to see them right now. So that when I go to work a certain group.
Yeah, let me just jump in here. So you guys taking that inventory and even just writing out to the edge, 7 a.m., 9 a.m., 2 p.m., 4 p.m. And just having that, we're expecting all of us to have the printed inventory in your kit at all times. Should the iPad ever have a glitch, which it can happen. Hey, it's tech. It's going to happen. But what John's talking about, planning it out and realizing what the times are, just looking. Well, keep it going, John. Keep it rolling then, if that's the case. I think I'm okay. I don't know if you're frozen, John, but tech is great. But having that inventory to write the time in the edge, just to have a mental image of where you're going throughout the course of the quarter. All right, well then start the week. You're planning for the week, John. What do you do with that?
Yeah, well, I didn't work yesterday because I was supposed to be going to Florida, but that got KO'd because Carol got COVID. So actually, by the time I found out, it was a little late for me to start. And, I'm only going to work a couple of days this week anyway. So today, I had it all laid out, and I'm really started because I've been doing trainings. I took a week of vacation. I'm starting other than doing some phone renewals last week, I'm really starting my renewals. So I had it all planned out, and I'm not necessarily going to go in order by the bubbles, because if I'd gone in order by the bubbles, well, I would have gone to see Maria, who doesn't get in until after 10 o'clock. Now, after 10 o'clock, I know she's going to be in most of the day, but I do know that Dave who has a pretty upscale cabinet business. He's almost always there at 7:30. So I get there a little before 7:30. He's not there yet, but I know he's going to be driving up, and by gosh, he does. And so that's the first interview. And then the next one is my 31 bagger, Jeanette, who is almost always there right about 8:10, 8:15. So that works out really well because I go from Dave over to Jeanette. And then I've got, actually went to see a rejoin who was out of business. And because he was on the way to the next renewal stop. And the next renewal stop is going to be an old time two bagger who just, I know what she's going to do. She's going to say, I'm busy. Just renew me at what I did last year. Okay, fine. Saves a lot of time. Then I've got a 7 bagger who's a farmer. And boy, this guy's ready to totally cancel because his fuel costs have gone through the roof. His combine is broken down. His supply chain is, preventing him from getting parts he needs. And I kept him in on a 3. And then I had the Maria. Now I know Maria, I can backtrack on the way home and catch Maria. And I do, I go in and she's usually pretty abrupt, but I've learned how to handle her. I said, hi, Maria, how's my favorite lady?
So with all this, folks, just jumping back in here.
It all went exactly as I had it planned, other than the rejoin being out of business.
So you can't necessarily pick the first bubble, like John's saying, and go to that because that's the geographically closest one. He's known who the early one is a little further down the road to then go back and see that closest bubble. It seems so simple. John and I have been talking about this stuff that it seems like common sense, or it seems like second nature, or whatever you want to call it. But then I watch us make decisions in the field that we drive here and there, and we go over there, and we don't even think about checking notes, and we come over here and wonder why the guy's not there on a Tuesday, because he's never in on a Tuesday. We actually have that in the notes. But there's all of this little bit of planning tomorrow or planning this week before I hit the field. I know about times. I had a day like this yesterday where the first guy I went to see, if you're in his lot at 6 a.m., you're bound to catch him any day of the week. Don't you know, I was there at 5:56. He opened the gate at 6:03, saw me, renewed, added on the whole bit. If I'd been there at 6:30, I would have missed it. That's too late but then I know those notes. So that one's done. Now, what's the next best closest stop to see? Then you can start to do some Pac-Man, but you always have to know where that first step is. And then the other thing, John, you just said that I loved is you called on a rejoin in stride. Didn't work out. They're out of business. Pop that pin, get that green one off the map, but it's in flow. It's in stride because we have to get our new business going as the BP team, as the renewal side of it. And frankly, all of us could, would, should sell more. Rejoins are the easiest way. John's probably going to do that every day he's in the field at least once or twice, and only 1 or 2 of them need to work out. The other 3, 4, 5, 8 can be popped and done off the map. But if you do it in stride, did you break your stride to see that rejoin or try to see that rejoin?
No.
It's just
it was
right
just
there.
on the way. It was on the way to the next renewal stop.
Exactly. So then, John, talk back a little bit more about the replanning in the middle of the day. You had your plan, but some days don't go like John Lowry's days and Kirk Wilson's days always go, where everything's perfect and everything works out and everybody adds on and it's just rosy. And then you wonder, what the heck? Why can't I have a day like that? But when the days don't work out, talk about reordering on the fly.
Well, I trained myself a long time ago to be processing in my mind. Let's just say that Jeanette wasn't in at 8:15 this morning. And sometimes she isn't there. It's a big garbage service. I mean, they got a corner on the market where they are. They make a lot of money, I can tell you that. But sometimes she's at a meeting or something. And if I go in, at least I get information. And then on the way back, I'm thinking, okay, how can I work her in without having to run out of my way? Well, I can work her in on the way back to see Maria, who I know is going to be there likely be there after 10. I'm going to be there the entire time. But I'm constantly in my mind. I mean, you could run into somebody who, they're out sick, they're on vacation, they have something else going on, and maybe they're not going to be in this week. Well, then or not until later in the week. And you've got to be constantly processing in your head how you're going to make the pieces of the puzzle fit together, not only for tomorrow, but the rest of the week, and how you're going to work them in the rest of the renewal cycle. And I trained myself to do that a long time ago. And that goes to not listening to talk radio, because you should be thinking between stops and trying to figure this out. Don't be on the phone, with just talking to a buddy or something. You've got to reprocess all this in your head. You've got to rethink it. And if you train yourself to do that, you will save yourself a lot of time and a lot of energy in having to go back to somebody who's way out of the way. Now, the one thing I will do is, if it's, my big dollar members, by God, one way or the other, I'm going to go see them, because I got a lot better chance to get add-ons with them. But it's an old time two-bagger, like that two-bagger earlier today. Yeah, right on the way, I stopped. She's going to tell me to renew. But if she hadn't been there, you know what I would have done? I just called her on the phone. I wouldn't mess around with going back to see her. I'm not going to go back to seeing the 2s and 3s and those people. If it's a first year renewal, maybe different deal. But if it's an old time member, heck, call them on the phone. Save yourself a lot of time, energy, and a lot of gas money right now.
Well, let me jump in, because this is all very good. Guys, if you're not taking notes on this, make sure you connect the dots, at least in your brain, about this. So not every day works out. You're going to kind of make your plan. And then if you miss the person, John's always thinking about how to get back and see them today or tomorrow, like this week now, to finish this. He's not leaving something to come back next month. And with that, I'll assume on Mr. Lowry that if he needs to take a deferred payment today to not have to come back in the future, he's taking a deferred payment today to not have to go back. Get it
I don't
done,
go back.
right?
I
You don't go back.
for-
We get this thing done. But then there's another layer. He made an attempt to see these people that are the smaller members, the old time smaller members. And let's say he missed them. He's finished all the other stuff in the area. He's just going to call the old time members. I'm with you on this, John. I don't want to be calling a bunch of first time members. I'd rather see them, develop that relationship of the renewal, the expectation, and the order of how we do this. But for an old time single, double, small one, especially that you've already missed, you've already gone through the area.
Yeah.
Don't drive back the 43 miles or something. Just call them up and renew them on the phone, man. So much easier.
You know what it comes down to, Joel?
What's that?
God gave you a brain, use it.
Quit naming people, John. Don't point at Jim Galvin or somebody else on the screen. That's just rude. Come on, don't do that. Don't do that. All right. So let me talk about this too. At the university with new people, we teach this. And then it's amazing to me that when we get to the renewal side of it, most of us have forgotten this little bit of practical help. We teach the note tree. When you go in and miss the prospect, the very first thing we need to find out is, think of like a tree, two sides, different ways the branches of questions can come off. But the first question is he mostly in, or is he more in and out? If he's mostly in, you just need to know when he's coming back. The questions are simple. But if he's more in and out, you've got to build a whole series of best time, best day, vehicle, all that kind of stuff. And we teach, make a statement, ask a question, make a statement, ask a question. What that leads to is creating a task in the iPad to remind you to go back later, today or tomorrow, soon. Then we come to the renewal side of it, and John and I will come work with you in the field and some of the other trainers, and we're stunned that there's no tasks, no notes on when these people are around, like no notes from last year's sale, and no tasks for info you could have picked up this year, like the truck he's driving kind of thing. Instead, we're watching people just get scattered and chicken with their head cut off and running all over. And then they leave a kind of a scattered map. All the cluster of it is done except that one guy. All this cluster is done except that one guy. And now it's just this terrible scenario for having to chase and not having the intel. John, talk about gathering the intel and long-term note taking. Tell me about your habits there.
Well, and one thing, if you're inheriting some renewals you've never done before, and there are no notes, which, gosh darn, that's never happened, has it? Sorry. the one thing you can do is just do a quick Google search on these people before the evening before, the day before. A lot of times it'll tell you right then and there what their hours are. It doesn't guarantee that the member's going to be there, but if they don't open till 9 o'clock and you show up at 8 o'clock, well, you've just wasted a bunch of time. And I will tell you, there's multiple benefits to going a Google search anyway. If they have a website, sometimes you can find out really good information about key people in the business for add-ons. So you can kill two birds with one stone there. But, I've confessed my sins before about not entering notes, but really a couple of years ago, I started doing it. And now I'm to the point where they're not notes on everyone, but there should be in another year, because somebody's going to inherit these pretty soon. But I want good detailed notes. And one of the things I want to know is, hey, what time did I interview them? What time is the business open? I want to put stuff like that in. When I look at notes, if I'm doing renewals that, I've been, for one reason I've never done before, I want to feel after I've read the notes that I really know that member. I want to know what their ideology is. I want to know the time. I want to know where they park. I want to know specifics about what may be important to them, especially where they are in the core values. And,
well, let me jump in, John. For the first year people, this is important. We take notes right after every sale. So you finish the sale, we expect you to get in the car, pull down like half a block into a different parking spot or something, and put the notes in the app. Day of the week, time of day, core values, like John is saying, the kind of vehicle they drive, what ballot you used, anything pertinent, leans conservative, leans moderate, leans liberal, anything that's in that ballpark. Because next year, and you do this year after year, you've done this now too, John, you can start to see a pattern that, gosh, I always see that person on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, and it's always before 10 a.m., between 8 and 10 a.m. Maybe I should always go on a Monday to Wednesday, 8 to 10 a.m. I'd be an idiot to show up on a Friday at 3 p.m. and think I'm going to see this. It could work. It could work.
And
but why would I risk it?
Share this with you. Dave Segru, the first guy this morning. Now, I know that he gets in. I was thinking he usually is in by 7. I looked at my notes and said, he's almost always there by 7:30 or a little after. Now, if I hadn't had the notes, I probably would have showed up at 7 o'clock. I would have gotten up a half an hour earlier than I needed to. So, even with my old time members that I know really well, having those notes helps.
Well, and then take it a step further too, John, about the mindset of working the inherited renewals. Let's say you don't have notes. Talk to us about that. What's your mindset that way? Because we're all going to experience that.
Well, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to do a mini ballot with them to find out where they are on the issues. I mean, with my old time members, I rarely do a mini ballot anymore. I'm using that updated version of America's Legacy. If you haven't seen it, it has great graphics in it, and under elements of good citizenship, we put something in there that I thought was really good that I use: respect police and firefighters. And I will turn to that page. But anyway, I'm going to do a mini ballot. I want to find out something about them, and I'm going to pay attention to what I see in their office. Do I see pictures of kids? And I'm just trying to get an initial feel for what's really important to them. I mean, you never know. The majority of our members are conservative, but you never know when you're going to get that liberal. And by God, you better adjust the interview if you got you better adjust that renewal interview if you got a liberal. So I want to know where they are. I want to know where they are on things like guns or energy or whatever. I mean, if they're all energy, oh no, we got to get off the fossil fuels. Well, I like the Green New Deal. Well, hey, you think I'm going to use the threat of socialism on urgent issues with them?
Different. Well, then also see the beauty of going in with the mini ballot to uncover the issues, folks. This is both new and renewal in this case. This gives us a chance to listen to their heart, hear what matters to them, know what direction to take the interview to make the core value all come together. But this also frees us up from baggage. So tie all this thought together in your brains and in your process. sometimes we make a plan to go to work. We go and we start missing people. We start telling ourselves the story and we fill in the negative gaps of he's avoiding me. It's going to be hard to see him. We start telling ourselves this useless story. All it turns out is they took the grandkids to Disney for a week and didn't tell anybody. And they're going to be back next Monday. It's not a big deal, but don't fill in the gaps. And then if you're not going in to uncover the intel, not going and put the notes in tasks and not creating notes after every sale, you could be spinning your wheels and getting more and more frustrated while other people are out there having 50, 100, 150 point days and never breaking a sweat because they're bringing it all together with a good plan, staying very open-handed in the process. Hey, so I missed the guy at 8:15. I had this happen yesterday. I got that guy at 6 a.m., which was great. The next guy, who's always a 7 a.m. guy, I was there at 7:15. I was too early this time. He's gotten such good help lately. He doesn't have to come in as early anymore. So I had to go see somebody else to then come back and see William. Glad to see me, glad to renew. Kind of like John was saying, it was always quick, signs the iPad, the whole bit. But still working myself. Well, I could have said, he's not going to be in today. He probably is going to take too much time off. It's going to be hard to get back over here early one morning. Instead, I just go in and ask, hey, is William around? Oh, he'll be here at 8, man. Just swing on back when you see that big black truck. Okay, I'll gladly come on back to see it.
Thanks for volunteering the information.
And it's, hey, he who goes in very professional, but not angsty is going to get and gather tons of intel. If you're in your first year with us trying to do this, you always make a statement before you ask a question. Like, I'll be back in this area later today. Tell me when I am back, what does he drive? If you make a statement before you ask a question, it's very conversational. We start to do that and build that cache of notes, that list of notes. We're not going to be chasing our renewals over and over. So if you find yourself in a chase situation on your own renewals, this is Uncle Joel being a little blunt, but you did that one to yourself. Okay. I got little mercy for that one. But if it's inherited stuff, hey, open-handed, figure it out, sell the person, get a lot of add-ons, a lot of referrals, take good notes, and then next year, it'll start to get in the cycle. Last few thoughts about organization and planning, John, and then we'll talk about preserving the tax cuts. But anything else that's key about working systematically in your mind?
Well, first of all, don't do car organizing. I mean, that is a terrible habit to get into. If your kid isn't ready, if you're not ready to go with everything, if you got to get in your car, oh God, what do I do with the mini ballots? I got to find some mini ballots or whatever. Don't do car organizing. That's the worst thing in the world. You got to organize that stuff the night before. The other thing is, oh God, I'm almost on empty. God, I got to make a swing by the gas station. Fill your tank the night before. I mean, come on.
Like plan ahead or something? What are you talking about, John? For being so mean. Again, Jim Galvin, he's a good guy. Don't make fun of Jim for not filling up his gas tank. Come on, man. What is this? Jim's like, what am I doing?
Pick on him. I'm not trying to pick on him, but if he's guilty, well, then I am picking on him.
He's just the first one on my screen. He's just the first one under you. So it's just easy pickings. Jim, we love you.
All right.
You keep doing a good job there, Jimbo Galvin.
Joel, I'm guilty of a lot of things, but I never have an empty tank of gas, and I don't have to car organize. A lot of other things I'm working on, but I appreciate it.
I got a lot of other sins, Father. Forgive me, but I love it. Okay. Hey, John, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to move towards, this is something John's been doing. So I'm going to put up part of that email you sent me about preserving the Trump tax cuts that are on the inside of the membership report we use for renewal. So I got to share my screen to do this. So hold on a second here. Start the broadcast. And then John, you'll be able to tell me when you see the email. Can you see it all come up there?
Yep, got it.
All right, well, talk us through, again, the blue is your initial instruction, and then just how this flows and where you put the emphasis and all that kind of thing.
Well, let's face it, they were trying to eliminate in the original Build Back Better a lot of the Trump business tax cuts. I read the original $8 trillion version. I actually found it online, and the original version, which didn't last very long, they were trying to cut the equipment tax deduction back to 50,000 and the death tax exemption back to 1 million. But it's real simple. What right now, especially, if you want to get their focus off, the prices at the pump, increase in cost of fuel, inflation, supply chain issues. I mean, dollars saved is it's always a huge thing with our members, but right now it's especially important. And we don't, just because the words aren't on the page doesn't mean we can't use them. And if you want to give people hope, and get their focus off, their increase of costs in doing business because of, price of the pumps, inflation, everything. To me, this is absolute gold. And so you've got to lead in by saying preserving. It doesn't say preserving on there, but you got to lead in by preserving the 2017 Trump tax cuts. And then this is how many action alerts we actually sent on Build Back Better? Got it from Charlie. Right? We sent 14 action alerts on the various parts of Build Back Better. I mean, our members probably, it was terrific. So you're just gonna start out by saying we sent multiple action alerts on the controversial multi-trillion-dollar Build Back Better bill. And then you want to include the three biggest things it would have done. First of all, it would create new entitlement programs. It would have increased the power of federal bureaucrats. And, when you're raised your business taxes. And then the next statement's real simple. Due to bipartisan opposition, the bill stalled in the Senate. It is dead. And Charlie has verified that it's dead. It is dead. And the 2017 business tax cuts that are saving small business owners like you thousands of dollars in federal taxes, Joel, they are preserved. And then you ask the question, how do you feel about keeping more of your hard-earned dollars? What are your thoughts on that, Joel? Tell me your thoughts.
See, and what's so amazing, John, is we have members who actually were believing the hype that Biden's going to raise your taxes. I heard that it's less now, but originally, when it was first getting proposed, Biden's going to raise our taxes. Presidents don't raise taxes, people. Congress does. And then I was talking with Noel, our CFO at the office, and he just pointed out, show me a congressman who wants to vote for a tax increase during an election year. It doesn't matter if it's a D, an R, or an I after their name. There is no person in Congress who's excited about tax increases during an election year, right? So this whole idea, and then not only are these preserved, but the forecast. I'll say the forecast for a minute, John. Keep going though about the response here. I don't want to short circuit that.
The response is, and you can change the wording on this a little bit. You asked the question, how do you feel about keeping more of your hard-earned dollars? So what are your thoughts on that? And then I'm going to smile and say, Joel, are you telling me from what I hear, the same thing I hear from every member, that you can use your money better than the government? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're telling me? And you smile when you say that, because I'll tell people I'm in my 27th year with Write Your Congressman, Joel, and I have never asked that question. And I've never had anybody say, oh, wait a minute, I'm not being taxed enough. I'm gonna write a check to the federal government today. And but there's a terrific follow-up question you can ask. You don't necessarily have to do it, but if you really want to generate some emotion and get them talking, you can say, well, Joel, what does it mean for the future of the free enterprise system and your business when you keep more of your hard-earned dollars? What does it mean for the future of your business? What are your thoughts on that?
See, that's the what if, that's the dream, that's the imagine kind of question right there. That's what's so powerful about it.
Yeah,
that's good.
And it really gets them talking. And, I have different responses, but one is what you're saying is preserving free enterprise and small business is essential to America's future. Is that what you're saying? Well, yeah. And you're going to generate more emotion. You're going to get them talking more with the follow-up question. So anyway, if you're not using that, you're making a big, I'm going to tell
Well,
you.
missing an opportunity. I would say folks are missing an
Yeah.
opportunity with the right member. And let me just jump in and say this, folks. I've got the screen set this way. Why don't you, if you'd like to, screenshot this? You'd hold if you're on an iPad, you'd do the top button and the home button simultaneously. If you want to take your phone and just take a picture of the screen, if you're on a computer, that's fine too. But why don't you all get a screenshot of this? And that way you kind of know what John's doing with this particular issue. And I will tell you this, some other issues to some members matter more. But right this second, this is a winner with a lot of members, right? That's what John's saying. This is just
with virtually it's a winner with every member, let me tell you. I
Yeah.
mean, and the add-ons I've had on trainings and personal production prove it. I was working with Al Smay up in Alaska a couple weeks ago, and these are members that I've actually, with Sharon Jackson up there a number of years ago, I actually renewed these people in the first renewal. So, and I've renewed some of them before, but I'm going to tell you, they were so with us after preserving the Trump tax cuts. I skipped critical race theory. I didn't need to go any farther. They were with us. They're all good old time members. I just needed to get it over to the close. So anyway,
love it. All right. Well, let me come back and get off the screen sharing for a second. Just come back, and there's John again for me. I do want to give a time for open Q&A about anything. There we go. Give you guys and gals a chance to ask anything about organization planning or particular issues, since I have John on the line tonight with us. Let me just say this, though, before I do open it up for that. The selling really is too good right now. When I'm watching people of all varying positions of their career, brand new, been with us a year, been with us 25 years, when I'm watching people do incredible things, we're watching people max out bonuses. We're seeing that 10% bonus thing rock. We're watching people drop 1,300, 1,400, 1,500 points a quarter, more than blowing up the bonus scale. What is going on? Well, they must be pretty. Well, I was going to say this, John, they must be prettier or smarter or something, right? And I'm like, no, they're effectively applying the process, making a plan, executing it, and they go to work with intentionality. They don't just go driving around. They don't just hope it works out in a day. They go get it done. So the idea that we could all be in the banner every week, that's not pie in the sky. That's not wishful thinking to me. I know that's real. But go ahead, John.
Having told me some of the from some of our own old time reps, their renewal add-on percentage so far this renewal cycle, I think some are just walking in the door thinking, oh God, prices at the bump, inflation, supply chain issues, I just got to get the renewal. No. The add-ons are there more than ever. They really are. And Kirk, how many add-ons do you have today? Kirk.
What was it, Kirk Wilson? Wasn't it like 10 or 12 add-ons today alone? If he's still on the line. Yeah, he'll unmute.
Well, anyway, they're out
good. Hey, a few minutes of open Q&A. Can be about anything. Unmute. Let's hear it. Ask your questions to John Bo. Get it?
John, can you hear me?
Speak loud.
Barely.
I'm not sure the computer's set up. This is Rick Gull.
Hey, Rick.
Are you using bipartisan opposition halts controversial? Are you starting with that, or what do you start?
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I just depends upon the member. But I think it is good, especially if, I really like the question. I did, I wrote it, but I do like it. How do you feel about, well, Rick, how do you feel about constituent pressure and bipartisan opposition halting major changes to our form of government? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I like it. I don't necessarily use the words that Joel has scripted because, you can be a little less informal with members who know this stuff. I mean, my members are informed enough. They know what was going on, eliminating the filibuster, packing the cord, and making DC the 51st state. But I think asking that question, I do think it's a pretty good way to start things out. I do.
Okay, good.
Right. What else, folks? Anybody else?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm TiVoing the Mariner game for God's sake.
That's it. Here's open. Come on, boys, win a game. Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, there's no magic. We try to do these classes to help everybody just get a clear perspective of how did this work, but with a plan, with the purpose and the open-handed approach we're talking about, circling back, using the notes, putting everything together. This work is not difficult. Seriously, people want to talk. They want to tell you what they think. They want to make a difference. They want to get involved. I've been doing this 24 years now, and I am not wanting to ever sound flippant with this, but this thing is getting pretty dang easy. It's downhill right now. So if you're not experiencing the downhill, we might want to look at process, scriptedness, preparedness, all these details coming together. How do we then maximize the effort? All right, somebody's got their hand up. I don't know who that is. Who's got a question there?
It's Kennedy.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, howdy. John, my understanding is that this deal with Manchin and Schumer does involve aspects of Build Back Better. Am I misunderstanding it?
Well,
No,
I know.
I'll jump in real quick. I'll say this. I did talk to Charlie and he said fractional, and there are Democrats who will take credit for it, but it's so fractional, it's nowhere near what they were wanting. But John,
and
go ahead.
The other thing is they can't do budget reconciliation over and over and over again. That is not going to work. The filibuster is going to come into play, and yeah, they might do some little piddly thing, but I think the thing that, and I asked Charlie, you heard me ask Charlie at the Western Regional meeting, is Build Back Better dead? Yes, it is dead, and they may try to do some little thing, but this big enchilada that started out at 8 trillion and they boiled it down to 1.75 trillion that managed to get through the House. I mean, they didn't even put up for a vote in the Senate, for God's sake. And I have read some things that it wasn't just Manchin and Sinema, that there were 3 or 4 other Democrat senators who really didn't want to have to go on record voting for this turkey, but we're just glad that Manchin and Sinema would be out front and they wouldn't have to go on record voting one way or the other. So I wouldn't overthink that, Steve. I really wouldn't. I really wouldn't. If a member brings it up, just say, hey, they were going to do budget reconciliation on Build Back Better, but they can't keep doing it multiple times during the year. The Senate parliamentarian is going to shoot them down on that, just like they did on what did the Senate
Immigration and all the other stuff.
Oh, a lot of stuff. Schumer's been shot down by the Senate parliamentarian 3, 4, or 5 times, for God's sake.
All right, anybody else got a question? Anybody else before we finish up tonight? All right, folks, it's there for us. Let's go rock this quarter. Let's finish every renewal we've got. Let's get that 15% add on. I mean, come on, let's make it happen for our members. And then,
Joel,
go ahead. What?
think of that great NFL running back who always thinks you watch him run and it's like he's always running downhill. We should be feeling like we're running downhill right now.
That's true. That's true. Everybody, thanks for being on. Thanks for joining. Hope it was helpful. Hope it was insightful. We'll talk soon enough.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Joel.
Yeah.